Hello and welcome to this episode of the Joyful Friar podcast. I'm Father Nathan Castle, your host. This is the retreat edition of the Joyful Friar. I'm with priests who serve in the Diocese of Tucson on a 5-day retreat at a Picture Rocks Retreat Center on the northwest side of Tucson, kind of as it begins to go rural. So we have mountains and saguaro cactus right outside the door. This is day 3 of a 5-day retreat, but I'm taking a little break from it just to be with you for a few minutes to introduce a new trilogy. We tell a story that's in one of the Afterlife Interrupted books. In this case, it's from the second of the 3 books, and it's a story that I really love, and I'm going to enjoy sharing with you over the next 3 episodes. We called it Bridget, Not Dead, Just Bouncy. Bridget turned out to be a child who might have been about 11 years old. Like all the people that end up in our line, whom we help in this afterlife mode that we do, she had died in a sudden, tragic way. She fell out of a tree and died. She explained that it was a tree that lots of kids climbed all the time. It wasn't particularly risky. It's just that the limb that she was on broke. And the manner in which she fell, she said, I was out of my body and I was locked out. I couldn't get back in. Well, she had, like any child that ever climbs on anything is told by an adult, get down there or you'll fall and die or something like that. You hurt yourself. So she knew that climbing had a risk in it. And her response to dying suddenly because of a fall is she felt like she's just done a bad thing. And she felt like other bad things would probably happen after that. She had a moment to think, oh God, now I've ruined my parents' life because, I died a child in an accident. Anyway, she was out of body. She couldn't get back in. She said there were helpers who came for her, but she was afraid and she thought she might be punished. So she passed on the help that might have been, that was offered in the moment. And she said, I ran and hid, for whatever that means. One of the things in this odd afterlife work that I've been involved in for these 28 years or so is that before I thought that there must be a sort of a template of how everybody died. And sometimes in my Catholic faith and other Christian traditions and other world religions have some sort of roadmap or some sort of explanation of here's how things work. And I suppose they all have some truth to a point, but then people are so different from one another. Certainly there are commonalities about the way we die, but then it seems to me it can go in lots of different directions. That doesn't really surprise me in the end. A little girl could be afraid that she's going to be punished because she just died doing something that adults probably disapproved of to begin with. Anyway, she told us, well, actually, the dream was interesting in as much as it wasn't just about her. In fact, she told us she didn't even appear in the dream. The session that we did was on August 20th of 2019. So the dream was previous to that. It was in the 3rd week of June of 2019. I was dreaming about diving into a swimming pool, forgetting that my cell phone was in my pocket. I got home and tried to dry it out. Outside in the yard, I heard people talking. A small open car of some kind had crashed. Young men were gathered. They showed me a replay of how the crash had happened. The driver had drifted off to the left shoulder of the road. There was a drop-off and the car flipped and rolled. Then the scene shifted. It was a young man falling off a wall. And then there was a man clinging to a wall and a window ledge before falling. Then there was a man in an old building hanging from a window unit air conditioner as it broke apart. Finally, there was a multi-framed window opening with many small children poking through it. It separated from a crumbly wall and it fell forward, and I awoke. Well, this is book 2, and by that time I'd had lots of these experiences, and one thing that I learned is just kind of a subset of groupings. This one, the scene shifted so fast, and there was not one narrative, but a whole bunch of them. But it seemed clear that all of them had to do with falling. So I had seen this before, so I thought maybe this is what we've got. We've got a group of people who are clustered in their afterlife space uh, because they died in the same way. When I've seen that, um, they tend to be people who resist being helped, at least initially. And so they're not harassed with unwanted helpfulness. They're allowed to just go to a place where they hang out, they chill. It isn't very therapeutic because they're not receptive to it, to therapy, and nor are they being punished. They're just in a kind of place where they can be left alone, at least sort of, for a while they regather, or maybe until they are willing to have a new thought and try a new thing. So that's what this turned out to be. My friend Lisa, who's an experienced prayer partner, was with me on this one. When we went into our protective prayer, we said we're going to need a spokesperson. It seems clear that there was not one narrator to this dream story. We will need one of you to step forward and work with us, talk with us about how we can help. Often I've begun to ask for the help of the guardian angel almost instinctually right after at this point in the proceedings. But at that time, 5 years ago, I just sat still in prayer and waited to see what would happen. And I began to feel the emergence of a person who had some skepticism. Um, they're not really confident they can do this, but here they are. I think this person is a pre-teenager in the presence of a bunch of adults. And I think I'm getting the name Bridget. That's what it turned out to be. Well, Bridget explained to us that she was not one of the people that helped bring the dream at all. There was no scene of her falling out of a tree in the dream. She wasn't involved in that, but she was in this place with all these other people. And what they did have in common was that they had all fallen to their deaths. She explained to us that there are a lot of people here who are sad. Some of them are very sad or very angry. Others of them are just kind of sullen. She said, but we all feel like we're on the bottom because we fell. So there's a kind of heaviness to the whole scene. She explained to us that I'm not the smartest one. They're mostly adults. I didn't volunteer for this. Somebody asked me if I would do it, and I'm just doing it because I was asked to. Now, if I'm doing it the wrong way, somebody else can step up and take over from me. So she was just a sweet little 11-year-old trying to be helpful and kind of surprised that she was asked to. Lisa, the prayer partner I was working with at that time, her daughter was 8 years old, and you could hear her uh, graceful parental kind of approach to uh, this young girl, Bridget. And so she explained that there's lots of them that fell in different ways, but she then explained that she had fallen from this tree and that she had kind of hidden. Um, but she did say that there came a point at which she was kind of calming down in this afterlife place where she was with other people who had fallen. And then there were some people there who were helping in ways that were optional. If you're in a group, somebody might come into the space and say, hey, anybody who's interested, look over here, we're going to do this. So you could either continue to pay no attention to it or you could engage with the new thing. She said one of the things that they decided to do was to try to get us moving and get us feeling the reality that sometimes you can fall and it's not tragic. In fact, sometimes you can fall and it can even be fun. It might even be something you seek out to do. She said somebody came up with a trampoline and some of us started jumping on it. And of course, when you go up, you come down, you fall. And there was laughter and fun in the falling and kind of easing people back into some sort of um, I don't know, comfort with the idea that not every fall is fatal and awful. She said, they wanted to show us that falling can be fun. You can bounce up and down and you bounce back up. She also mentioned that there was something like those, what she called a bouncy house, those inflatable things that you sometimes see at a children's birthday party, for example, where kids get in it and bounce up and down and fall over and laugh. She mentioned that. She said there's other little playground equipment that makes you tilt sideways or gets you off balance. She said some of us, the last experience that we had before falling was losing our balance and then falling to our death. So they're trying to get us used to the fact that if you are off balance, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to die. So she said, there's this playground equipment where you hang on to something to keep from slipping off. It's not dangerous. It's just a game. She talked about cars, that in the dream there was somebody who was in a car that fell off the side of the road, but then fell a long distance and rolled. She said they have cars here that are like ones in an amusement park where you get in and then you pretend to steer them. Well, it has a little steering wheel, but nothing much is happening because it's going down a track. Now, maybe the track is flat for a while and then maybe it goes up and it comes back down, but it's always controlled and nothing bad is going to happen. So she said that one of the things that she learned there, that she was one of the younger ones, but not the youngest. There were children younger than 11 that her age at the time of her death who had also died in falls. Uh, but she said they started getting me and asking me to help. She said, I was old enough that some of the younger ones looked up to me and kind of admired me. They would take direction from me. And so I would try to cheer them up. I'd get them up and moving, like at the bouncy house. She said, some of the adults, she said it wasn't tricking them, but it was getting them interested. You could say to an adult who had died, but who had had children, you could say, do you see that little girl over there? She doesn't have any parents here. Would you mind going over there and talking with her? So she'd get people helping each other. She said sometimes adults will do something for a child that they wouldn't do for themselves on their own, but they might end up doing it because they're helping a child. She made a reference to the way that adults will sometimes do things like go to an amusement park and sit on the bench. Will go to the park to the swings, but all they want to do is push. They never want to ride. So she said that they encourage me to get them helping each other, and that sometimes that's really helpful, and it ends up helping everybody. One of the things that she uh, came up with on her own, I think, is she was coaxing people into the bouncy house and getting them jumping up and down again. And when they'd fall, she'd say, see, we're not dead, we're just bouncy. We don't have bodies anymore that have bones that can break. Our bodies don't break open and gush blood the way they might have before. They're not made of anything now that breaks or gushes. We're okay to fall, and it's safe. Isn't this crazy? Uh, I just think it's crazy fun. And because I've seen it over and over again over the years, all the different ways that this can work, I won't say nothing surprises me, but as a believer, as a Christian, um, and this isn't confined to Christianity in any way, but I just think God is wonderful and has created many wonders and many ways for people to get up again, to rise, to get over anything that bad that affected them and start again. I really believe in that kind of cosmic do-over, cosmic happy ending, and that's very much part of this story. Well, anyway, Bridget was um, she was talking us all the way through it, and then she said something like, "I think I've explained enough things. Uh, they told me that the reason that you're here is to help any of us who want to move from here to a place that's better, and nobody's going to be forced to, and nobody's going to be shamed or made to feel guilty if they choose not to do this thing today, whatever it is." She said, I don't know what it is. I just know that they've told us that we're ready to go to someplace that's better and more fun than this. So she said, I think I'm ready to do that. So when we get to that point in any of these stories, we usually get quiet, we pray and go deeper. connect a little better. Then I just listen. I wait to hear how this is going to play. And she said, we need something that moves to get us from here to there, but it can't be anything that leaves the ground because we don't want anybody to be afraid they'll fall. And she said, you know what? I can see it now. She talked about ice cream trucks at one point, and she said one of the things that they've done, sometimes they send an ice cream truck, and that has joyful music playing, and it's attractive. And she said, and ice cream is attractive not just to kids but to adults too. And so sometimes adults that are just sitting around feeling sad will go to the ice cream truck. So they were trying, apparently they try to make this movement appealing. So she said when she began to see something come into focus, and she said, it's going to be a hayride. We're just going to get on this flat, slow moving thing. Even the horses that pull it are old and slow. Isn't that funny? The horses that pull it are old and slow. There's people on it that are extending their hands to help you aboard. She said on the back of it, there's something like a deck with steps where you can climb on it yourself without taking the hand of anybody. But anybody that wants to can get on, and we're going to slowly go into the next place. So um, she she said it's time for me to stop talking now and just do this. They're taking one last move around the place and saying to everybody, we'd love for you to join us if you want to, but don't feel bad if you're not ready. There'll be another opportunity another time. But anyway, she decided to do that, and that's the way that it played out. She got um, to move along. Now, if you've been following this podcast, you know that we never tell any of these stories without going back a second time and asking that person's permission to use their story. My sister Catherine helped with that. And sometimes those are just about as long as the previous session is, but this one wasn't. We just got with her, and uh, she Bridget said, I'm a little bit older than I was the last time. So she wanted us to know you were talking to somebody that it wasn't quite 11. But she said, the people around me have said, we would advise that you were really enjoying being a child before you died, and you seem to be doing a good job of being that age right now. She was using that to help smaller children. And she said, so I've taken their advice and I've decided I'm not going to grow up really fast. I'm going to do it slowly. So it seemed like she might have been somewhere in her teens. And apparently that's the thing. We can choose the pace at which we opt for whatever age we want to settle on. And I've seen people not feel the need to settle on one, kind of move back and forth. But she said um, that when we asked her about using her story in a book, she said, well, the only reason I would say no is if it would hurt anybody. But I didn't tell them my last name, and I didn't say what state I was in or what year I died or anything like that. So there's no reason that anybody needs to hear my story and be offended. That's helpful. Uh, she said, I don't think there's anything wrong with it being told to anyone. I was afraid because I was a child, and like all children, anytime a child climbs on anything, there's always an adult there to say, get down from there, you're going to hurt yourself. And so when I did hurt myself, I thought of that. But it was a tree that lots of kids climbed. And anyway, she kind of repeated a lot of the things that I've already mentioned that we learned from her the first time. But I love the way that she closed it with this thought, and it'll be the way I close this podcast. She said, listen to this. You can get over the bad thing that happened to you. The bad thing that happened when she was 11. She's a little bit older than that, but here's her advice. It is based on her experience. You can get over the bad thing that happened to you. I know because I did. There's just no reason for anybody to be sad for me or angry about anything. And he's saying of me, Father Nathan's not doing anything bad. He's just trying to help people think differently, because some people don't really think there is an afterlife. Or they think that you must turn into a cloud and disappear. I haven't disappeared. I just became me in a different way and in a different place. I'll see everybody who missed me. I'll see them all again if they want to see me. In fact, I have seen a few already because it's been a while since I died. So, yes, if you want to use my story, go ahead. Just do it like you do with all the other ones. Can you see why I love Bridget? I just, uh, uh, I just think she's wise beyond her years, however you number them. And she kind of stood up for me too. She said, "He's not doing anything wrong. He's not upsetting anything. I haven't disappeared. I'm just me in a different way, in a different place." I don't know about your life, but at 68, I have been me in lots of different ways in lots of different places. I don't know how many addresses I've had or how many states I've lived in, how many different jobs I've had, how many different groups of people were my friends for a time in a certain time and place. I know what it's like to be me in a different way in a different place. And maybe that's good training for when I do make the big journey and be me in a different place, similar to the place that Bridget is in. But for right now, I hope you find that story encouraging. Uh, there's just a lot in it to unpack, but we'll do that in the next two episodes. In these trilogies, we tell a story as I just have in this first one. Next time, we'll go into what I call compassionate response to that story, what it evoked that I think might make us feel compassion in a way that teaches us somehow. And then finally, I'll have an episode that I call spiritual practice. Is there something from this story that somehow parallels, dovetails a, a, a practice that I might be able to share with you that might be helpful? But for right now, this has been the first of the Bridget Not Dead, Just Bouncy trilogy. So remember that I'm always praying for you. If you want to be in touch with me, if you have questions about this particular work that we do with the souls and the crossings, please read at least book one before you ask me for send an email or want a conversation or something like that, because I'd like for us to have a really rich interaction when we do that. So that's all I ask. If you have questions about this very peculiar thing, first read at least the first book. They're all on Amazon. They're not expensive. They're in paper form. They're in e-reader form, and they're on Audible, so you can listen to them. I'm finding that more people buy the Audibles than any other. I think a lot of people have busy lives where they might not think of themselves as a reader, but they do think of themselves as a commuter or somebody who goes for a walk and or exercises, and they can put in their earbuds and listen to an audiobook quite easily. So anyway, signing off. This is Father Nathan Castle, praying for you and wishing you well. I'll see you next time. God bless you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Joyful Friar. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You can visit me at nathan-castle.com. Send me a message by clicking the contact button. God bless.